Welcome. This is the REI Rocks Review. REI stands for Real Estate Investment. In case you didn't catch that, I'm joined today with my co-hosts, Angel Williams and Jason Williams. Let's start off with Angel because she's the extrovert. Angel, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I guess my computer decided I need to still be in the Christmas spirit because that is the only background I have today. So that's how we're going.
Oh, Christmas tree. Oh, Christmas tree. Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well.
Excellent.
I'm not being festive today, though.
Yeah, not too festive. You're all about underwriting, underwrite miss. I don't even know, but whatever. So today we're doing our normal thing of reviewing past summit presentations. This time it's going to be Matt Faircloth's one. Angel, do you want to say a couple things about what we're going to watch?
So Matt's going to give us a good rundown of the major roles you need to have on a team and how you're going to fill those and what their jobs are. And it was a really great presentation and it holds to this day. You still need those roles and you still need those people that can actually help keep your team and your property afloat.
Excellent. So I'll start sharing the screen. We got the captions here. And maybe Angel, if you want to say a little bit more about how we watch these and things like that.
Absolutely. So we're going to watch these on 1.5 speed. And the reason that we do that is so we can get more information into our heads. Your brain goes a lot faster than you think it does, and it can comprehend a lot faster than you can speak. So by speeding it up, we're able to digest more information. And then what we're going to do is at the end, we're going to give you a doggy bag, or we're going to give you some takeaway, because we're going to help you figure out where it needs to be broken down and what the important pieces that we believe need to be taken away from. So it's going to be, yeah, your underwriter is showing. Wow, funny. Yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be pausing it when we think we need to pause it for the important parts and for to really put stress on the things that we're hearing, and then we'll sum it up at the end.
All right, beautiful. So let's get started. This is Matt Faircloth's presentation.
All right. So our first speaker is Matt Faircloth. So, hey, that seems so smooth for you to pop right over, but man, we had to stop.
Oh, I totally meant to do that. Yeah.
Oh, well, this morning Zoom is just being crazy. It's insane.
Like, folks are using Zoom these days, man. You know?
But you know what? The carrot's back. The carrot has been gone. Okay. Couldn't screen share. So like Holly was on this morning and Terry's on and we're all trying to figure it out. I'm calling Jason from the other room. We don't have a sitter this morning. None of the namies can make it this morning. So Jason's out there manning the kids and he's like my full production crew. So it's like I'm having a mental breakdown because Zoom's not working and he's having to come in here and try and help me. And then the 3-year-old is coming in and she's got her finger up in her face. It was just like, holy crap.
It's life, man. Don't worry about it. It's life.
Oh, I know. It's just,
no
it's
worries.
Because, everything's been so smooth this whole time. Yeah. That hasn't been either.
This whole thing is, if anything, it's made me more forgiving and patient, by necessity, right?
Yes, but it was like, so for real, on Monday, on my schedule, Jake and Gino 2:15, I emailed them and told them Friday. So on Thursday, I'm like, 60 minutes to fill. And Jeff Holst was amazing. And he pops on my screen and starts waving at me. And
I love him.
Oh my God, yeah. But he totally bailed me out. And we filled it and it was awesome. And then yesterday, number one, I'm never going to start the schedule again, ever. Too many details. But Jason managed to take the schedule from yesterday, eliminate all the breaks. There was 10 speakers instead of 9, but because it was starting out double booked, but everybody was awesome and gracious and flexible. And so we didn't lose any speakers. Everybody was still speaking, and Monday was just a little crazy. And then today, tech problems. So,
So I guess what you're saying is that running a summit is the easiest thing ever. No stress.
Yeah. Well, and the thing you have to realize is this was our first year doing it. So Jason's 3-year-old. We don't even have a 3-year-old. And this was 3 years ago. We've been doing this for a bit now, and they have gotten exponentially easier to do. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to do them.
That's so funny.
Just pop in and hop in every day.
Yeah, you've got some phenomenal speakers, man. I'm honored to be a part of it.
I was going to say, I think having the pre-recorded stuff helps, though. And I know it's too early to pitch, but all the pre-recorded stuff is under a subscription service, so we can carry on.
It's never too early to pitch, but we'll go ahead and throw that on the screen a little bit later and leave a little bit of extra suspense, I guess.
Dick and Gino and Joe Fairless and Dan and everybody, I mean, you that whole party over here. Yeah.
It's been really, really cool. It's honestly, I learn so much right alongside everybody during these.
Awesome.
And it's
it's humbling to me for people.
What are you getting out of
to
it? What's your top 3? What's your biggest thing that you've gotten out of running this thing?
Okay,
what's your give me like one aha you got out of coordinating this.
Number one, like what I've gotten out of the speakers, right?
Anything.
Okay, well, number one, you need someone in the background when you're doing a virtual event. Absolutely. But number 2 is don't freak out. It'll all be okay. And sometimes you just have to turn it off and turn it back on. And
my wife's computer crashed during the Invest Her Summit with like 200 women on, and her computer crashed and dropped the whole summit, the whole thing, middle of the day. You know, like talk about needing tech support at that point.
Yeah.
When she rebooted the computer back on, guess what? Everybody went back and got the link and got back in. And hey, well, sorry about that. You know,
well,
right.
we lost some people, but it's pushing live to Facebook, so there's people watching it there. And then and Zoom was just crazy. And I like Zoom. I'm comfortable with Zoom, but I think we may be moving to something else.
Yeah. Talk to me offline. I got a really cool software that nobody seems to want to go after, but it's a real virtual thing. Instead of Zoom, you get these little avatars and you can walk around and talk to people and network and everything like that. Yeah, I made that face too. And then I got and checked it out. Me and Jay Scott went and got in there and played with it. And we were like, this is incredible. And you can have people stand on it, like virtually stand on a stage, deliver presentations, PowerPoint, and then the little avatars can walk out of the room and talk to each other and stuff like that. It's like being at an event, and you don't need VR goggles or anything like that. Just a regular computer can do it.
That is wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy no.
Listen, I don't know anything. It's called, listen, I'll just tell you. So those that are watching, it's called Verbella, right? I don't know shit. It's not like it's my thing or whatever. It's actually owned by EXP. It's called Verbella, VIRBELA, and it is the future of networking. Nobody's using it though. They should be though.
Well, actually, so maybe not the future.
Whoever decides to use it, just please invite me to speak at it so I can say, this is awesome. Y'all need to check this shit out. Right?
Well, everybody else needs to check out our app. And it's in beta test right now, but it is, we couldn't have planned it any better because it is a connector app. So the part that's being beta tested is the investor part, which is where like you self-select. Are you a flipper? Are you a wholesaler? Are you multifamily? Are you single family? Are you buy and hold? And you self-select all those things, and you connect to other investors, passive investors, active investors, and then the vendor portion comes in on 2.0, which is hot on its heels, and that's where you can find your roofer, your plumber, and you can like geo-select.
You got to let me during my presentation, there's another facet you need to add to that, right? Because I'm going to teach y'all today about how multifamily is a team sport. You will not succeed in multifamily by yourself. So you got to build a multifamily team. And I talk about the 4 seats that have to be on the multifamily bus. So if you're going to do that connecting app, you could name each, what are you? Are you a capital raiser? Are you a deal finder? Are you an underwriter, analyst? Are you an asset manager? You need all these different people to run a real estate group.
My husband's down here. He's like, exactly.
I know. Jason's chiming in like, yes. It's like chasing your kids around going, yes, I hear what Matt's saying.
Yeah, so it's called the LoreCap app, and like our tag is real estate investing. Oh, there he is.
What's up, brother?
Real estate investing solutions in the palm of your hand.
There.
Yeah. Wow.
What's up, Jason? No bow tie today, huh?
Oh, no, he's just hanging out with the kids and trying to keep them quiet.
Well, I don't know if he had to wear one every day, even when he wasn't out, because he looks really good in the bow tie. So it's like you just wear do you wear bow tie to bed? Just all the time, right?
So, yeah.
I heard a rumor you could even buy a bow tie. And we don't have an easy store for it, but if somebody reaches out and they really desperately want a real estate investing rocks bow tie, that is a possibility. And
it is.
Some people would think that that's not a possibility, but it is. It's amazing.
No, he's
not okay.
He's particular about when he'll actually tie the bow tie.
Bust out the bow tie. All right.
But honestly, like people are starting to like talk to him now too. So because I know you want to get started, but I'm gonna tell you like the reason why he started with the bow tie. So I have a really big personality, in case you didn't know. Yeah, I know, right? And to compete with that, he was like, I'm going to wear a bow tie.
He's got to stand out.
And so that was what started the bow tie.
He's got to get noticed, so you don't get like, so you get 95% of the attention. He gets 5% of it, at least because he's the guy. Oh yeah, your husband is wearing a bow tie.
Yeah. So it was just hilarious how the whole thing came about.
Yeah, he's got to keep up with you.
I did have somebody tell me last night in the network, and they were like, "How all day, 2 days, 3 days? How?" And I'm like, I draw my energy out of the crowd, and it's so hard that this is virtual. But I mean, like,
I reach deep. I dig deep.
But it's been fun. Happiest second time of the year.
I can tell you're enjoying it.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, I am going to let you get started because finding your team is so important. And
you going to do this and do Q&A after? You want to hop in, just do a few questions if you have them. You can just you can ask them yourself or whatever. I'm all yours. I'll hang out to you. I'll hang out till whenever. All right.
Yeah, you can go ahead and get started, and then I'll be looking for questions here, and we're going to be looking for questions on Facebook, and we'll try and.
You can ask questions. You're allowed to ask questions too, Angel.
I do
because you're on.
I mean, this is selfishly really all for me anyway, so that I can get one-on-one.
So you get the best education ever. I have until when?
I found my schedule, so I'm not crazy now. 10:30 my time, so that's 11:30 your time.
Yes.
Okay.
And who's after me? Holly Williams.
Yes.
She's awesome. Kissy Holly, if you're watching, that's you. All right, let's do it.
All right.
Say bye.
And you can actually share your screen now because we figured that part out.
I know. I got this. Don't you worry, man. Cool. All right, y'all, listen, we're going to be talking today about building a powerhouse multifamily team. As I told Angel earlier, you are not going, you could try and tackle this business by yourself, but the successful companies, there is a and sign in there. There is Jake and Gino, Joe and Frank, Dan and Danny, right? There are a long list of successful syndicators that have a team. Even those you think don't have a team, that you only know one person. Well, what about that person? They've got an enormous
Lauren Capital
team behind them, because no one can be great at all the facets that it takes to be successful in multifamily. So we're going to talk about how to build that team today. I'm going to teach you all about it. If you guys want a copy of my presentation, make sure you stick around to the end, because I'll give you a means to get a copy of this presentation for free. All right. So no matter how brilliant your mind or strategy, if you're playing a solo game, you'll always lose to a team. That is a fact. A team will smoke you. A team will eat your lunch all day long in this business, because you are left to your own blind spots. It's not because you're not that smart. It's not because of any of that stuff. We all have our God-given strengths, and we've got our God-given not so great strengths, right? So without a team, you will be beholden to those not so great parts of yourself that are holding you back, and a team will be the ones that will have your back on those things. So we're going to get into that. My name is Matt Faircloth. I've been a full-time investor since 2005. That's my lovely wife, Liz, and a slightly dated photo of our children. And that. So we're apartment building owners. We've got properties in North Carolina, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, soon to be 1,100 units, because we're about to close a 336 unit in North Carolina. Woohoo! Super pumped for that deal. I'm the author of Bigger Pockets, Raising Private Capital, which is now an Amazon bestseller. Super excited to be on the bestsellers list for real estate, for venture. It's up there. It's in the top 10 for venture capital as well. So great book, Raising Private Capital. You guys should all check it out. And if you have read it, please take a moment after this presentation and write it a review on Amazon. If you take a screenshot of that review, I'd be glad to schedule a 30-minute thank you call with you, because I sure appreciate your support in writing a review. Only if you read it, only if you read the book, leave that review, and then send us a copy of that, a Photoshop of that review to info@derosagroup.com, and I will gladly schedule a 30-minute, coaching session, whatever you want, just 30 minutes of my time, just to thank you for the review. So make sure you do that if you'd like to. If you'd like to, just send that to info@derosagroup.com. Okay. This is an individual investor. So this could work if you are and this could even be a husband and wife combo team. There could be two people sitting on that unicycle, as there was for Liz and I when we first got started. And this arrangement can work for smaller real estate investments. I know plenty of people that are doing single deals, single family homes, small portfolios, 10 units or less total, maybe even 20, 30 units or less, as a single operator, single person. They're drinking lots of coffee. You see that coffee in the air, taking lots of notes. They got lots of files, or on that phone a lot, and they're doing lots of emails and things like that, and keeping their own books. It is possible. And we did it. And there are many people that can be a single operator of real estate investing. And so don't think that you can't operate anything in this business by yourself. But if you're looking to get into larger real estate deals and multifamily, my guess is some of these things are going to start hitting the ground and crashing in your business if you try and do it all on your own. This is
and you're not going to have a good time. That's the most important thing, I think, right? It's like, if you try and do this on your own, you are not going to have a good time at all.
Yeah, well, and I think about it like this too, like with that person on the unicycle juggling everything around. Like, if I had to do my own underwriting, I would never get a deal.
That's it right there, right? Yeah, yep. That's really it. That's really it.
Super successful team. Forgive all the superhero references here. I'm an absolute superhero dork, and so you will find superhero Easter eggs throughout this presentation. You'll just have to deal with that, because that's just who I am. And that, for those of you guys that know me and know my YouTube channel, you'll know I'm a big superhero dork. So how do you make your business look like the Power Rangers, look like a group of superheroes that all have different strengths, all have different shapes and sizes and things that they're great at, to support each other to make them awesome, right? Well, step one, here are the 3 steps. This is step one in building a superstar rockstar real estate team. You gain alignment. Now, what does alignment mean? That means that there are certain things that you and your team need to be on the same page on, because if you're not going to have a real team. You can't have Batman can't be on the same team as the Joker, because they don't have the same goals, in that their alignment is not there. But if you've got alignment on shared vision, things that you want to accomplish, right? Where we want to go, it'd be very hard to gain alignment with somebody who wants to own 50 single family homes if you're looking to buy a ton of multifamily, right? So if you gain alignment with your team, shared vision, shared values, right? What do we stand for? Do we believe in things like the one to others? Do we believe in things like, high profitability over everything else? Whatever it is, what are your shared values? Value for my company, for the DeRosa Group, is our biggest value is to transform lives through real estate. And if you don't believe that what we do is completely dedicated to transforming lives first above everything else, then you can't be a part of the DeRosa Group team. It's one of our core values as a company. What are your short and long-term goals? What expectations do you have? And do you have entrepreneurial spirit? Those last two are big, man, because if you don't have entrepreneurial, if you're partnering with someone who's been an employee for their entire life, they're going to be all about where's my paycheck and what are my benefits and where's my healthcare and everything like that. Those are expectations too, compensation expectations. So if you're not aligned on those expectations, you could very easily have partnerships fall apart. I have had partnerships fall apart that I got into because I was with people that had employee mindsets, were all about what their monthly paycheck was going to be versus what our long-term success was going to be. And we're not willing to commit to the law of delayed gratification. And it's very hard to align with someone if that's not something that you're both willing to commit to. That will break a business apart right there. Those last 3. Okay, so write those down in big letters.
So one thing that is in all of these different points I see on alignment, but it's not being put out there as clearly as I'd want, would be that just interest for money or increase of net worth that's not enough alignment. So I guess one thing, like we've been discussing a few times recently, like aggressive loans, for example, just anything like that. Like there are ways where you can, like some people are more interested in building a comfortable environment and lifestyle for tenants than others would be one example. And so like, I think that's one where it definitely have to be a line, because if you have one person who wants to squeeze out every drop of equity like a lemon, then they're not going to get along so well with people who actually care about their tenants and want to make sure that they have plenty of dignity. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, it does. And there's also, you have to be in alignment with your team as far as, sorry, there's something right there. You need to be in alignment with your team, because you need to be thinking about who is most important, who is second most important, and where do we as a GP team fall out. Jason and I are in the school of thought that the GP team falls out last. We're the last ones to see any benefit. We put our investors and our residents they're almost even. Jason,
No, residents are a priority over investors.
Okay.
Because if you don't have residents, you don't have a business, and you definitely can't get investors anything.
Okay.
If you treat your residents well, they'll be repeat customers. They will handle the increases in rents, and that just allows you to handle your business plan.
Yeah, we have seen this in action where, we purchased a property and all of a sudden maintenance orders are getting taken care of, and so residents that had leaky sinks for 6 months, 7 months, saw stuff getting fixed, and they started coming to the office and saying, "Man, thank you for taking care of that." And so within a week or two of taking over the property, they're seeing a change and they're really excited about that. And so I do see what you're saying, Jason, because if your residents aren't happy, they're not going to want to pay rent on time. They're not going to want to take care of their property. They're not going to want to take care of anything outside of their door. And when your residents are happy, they will take care of all of those things. It makes it a better community to be a part of. And then that in turn makes it better for the investors as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's cut and dry by any stretch. I know I had this conversation with Charles Dobbins, and I was relating it in the context of when you're a freelancer, there's a difference between a customer and a client. A customer would be somebody who, similar to when you buy a used car, once it's off the lot, it's your problem. Okay. But if it's a client, then that means if something comes up, you have a duty to let them know and try and, protect them in their investment as much as possible. So in that context, the conversation with Charles Dobbins was the investors are the clients, because they're supposed to be much more long-term than an individual resident. And when it comes to the individual residents, I know we've been talking about some weirdness at a property about people asking how much rent they owe, which is kind of a weird one, right? But I think that does show that sometimes the residents are your customers. And I definitely agree that, there's way more like similar to Yelp reviews of buildings than there are of sponsors and syndicators, right? So that's where I definitely agree with Jason's side, as far as like just the visibility. Your business in the building itself could likely be sunk just by what it says online, but it's different for investors. But
But
like you,
I
Angela,
think of residents as clients also. I mean, they put in a minimum of 1 year commitment when they sign a lease. We've had residents who've been living on the property long before we've owned it, long before the previous owners owned it. They've been there for 17 years. You can't tell me that that's just a customer. I mean, they've invested. Think about the rent they pay every month, and they've been there for 17 years, so they haven't been evicted or anything, so they haven't been on time. So that is a significant investment that they've been putting in for a good place to live.
Yeah.
So they are indeed clients.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we do all agree that GPs go last.
GP is last on the totem pole.
Okay.
My
Love it.
hierarchy is the residents, the investors, actually contractors and management is in there as well, and we're at the very bottom. So
Yep. And it's got to be a team for that reason. Got to make sure that we're not just, making a bunch of assumptions. I guess that's a huge part of this alignment that Matt Faircloth is talking about. I see we did. Sorry, go ahead, Angel. Oh, no, you're taking a drink.
Absolutely. I'm just agreeing.
yeah, and you have to make sure your team is all on board. So whenever we talk to our team, we have to tell them, it's like, hey, this is where we are. Do you agree with this? And a lot of times they'll say yes, but they won't actually mean it. They'll want to be paid a whole lot sooner than we should really be getting paid. So
Yeah, with the first property we got, there was an aha moment where it was like, if we're having a hard time covering our butts, what we have to cover, then why should we be getting an asset management fee? And there was a conversation had about that. And that was a hard one to come to grips with, because that's kind of our cash flow. That's how we feed our kids. And it really put into perspective the importance of running your property in the most efficient and effective manner that you can.
I love it. I love it. And of course, I'm the digital side of this whole organization. So it always hits me that I should cover my face with triangles and let you know how important it is to check out the academypresents.com/REI Rocks review, so you can see the base content that we always review in these REI Rocks reviews. Angel, do you want to say a couple things about that?
Absolutely. So if you look up there on what Dan has, it says get 250 plus hours of expert content. Well, we realized that the live content that was happening during the summits wasn't part of the videos. And it was like, wait a second, there's at least 50 more hours. So for that subscription, you're actually getting over 300 hours, 300 hours of content that you can review at your leisure. And all of the REI Rocks reviews that we're doing every Friday are also being recorded. So if you want to match those up, you can match them up too. That way you're seeing it on your own. You're not being biased. And then if you want to recap it with the REI Rocks review video, that's up there too. So there is a lot of information there, and we would love for you to join our REI Rocks family, join our community, and be a part of all of this information, because there's a ton of it.
I love that. And there's so many people on there, and a lot of them we have as repeat guests, people who you can't have, showing up every week. People are pretty hard to schedule. And I just love this subscription, because when we do have those live summits, it also gives you access to those. So what you can do is you can blast through that person's content and then prepare questions for when you have some one-on-one or one-on group session there. So, all right, let's continue with Matt Faircloth. Rock and roll.
You need to be aligned with those if you want to be an entrepreneur, and your partners need to be aligned with those too. Okay. Then you got to gain diversity. Once you've got that core foundation of alignment, well, you got to find ways that people are different than you, right? Because you can't have a whole bunch of people that are all the same, because then what's the point in having a team if everybody's exactly the same? That's the point of a team, people that have different skill sets, right? So to build a team, you need to get honest with yourself. Look yourself in the mirror and think about something, right? Ask yourself this question. This is a little easier when you get to brag on yourself here. What are you great at, right? What are you awesome at, right? Think about that for a minute. And if you guys even want to play the big game, here, break out one of these handy dandy things. This is called a pen. Most people use keyboards. This is called a pen. This is called a notepad. You can actually take notes on these things. So write down here on your notepad with your pen, what are you great at? What is your God-given skill, man? What are you absolutely awesome at? And if you get a little stuck, ask your spouse, ask your best friend, ask your mama, ask somebody, what are you great at, right? And they'll tell you. And if you could be something super simple, but also try and translate what greatness is they tell you have into your real estate business. Well, geez, you're really great at explaining stuff, or you're really good at just seeing all sides of things, or you're really tenacious, meaning like you could have no told to you 7 times, and you're gonna let no be told to you 87 times till you get to that 88th time, which is going to be a yes, right? Those are our core skills that are beneficial in this business. But I submit to you, everyone's great at something, right? And so if you can identify your greatness and then translate it to your real estate business, that is your superpower. Okay. Now, then you got to look a little deeper in the mirror and decide what you suck at, right? Decide what you're awful at. Well, I'm awful at keeping books, and I'm awful at details. That's just not me. I tend to glaze over things and all that. And I need people that are better with details in that. So find out what you are awful at. And then
I don't know if he's about to say this or not, but another version of what am I terrible at is what do I hate doing? Like like it doesn't, like you could be great at it, but you just hate doing it, and you have to be really honest with yourself. Otherwise you're kind of taken away from the whole team, I think.
No, I recently realized, I told Jason the other day, I was like, getting on the phone is exhausting for me, which is really hilarious because I love talking to people. I love being in groups, but I prefer Zoom over phone. And I think it's because I need to be able to see the person. So even though I'm great in crowds, I'm great one-on-one, I'm great with these relationships, I don't really want to get on the phone. And so that's something that I have to work through. Because once I'm on the phone, it's usually okay. It's just actually picking it up and dialing it. I don't want to do it. I'd rather text somebody or pop into a Zoom or do one of those things. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, hey, that's something I don't really like to do. I can do it. But for other things like underwriting, no way. So if you think about the things that you procrastinate on, those are probably the things that you need to be looking at outsourcing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I guess the other thing we can mention too, from your skill set, see, it's kind of confusing from the outside when you see somebody who, oh, I'm the face of this real estate company. I'm the person who's talking, the front person or whatever. It's kind of tough to put your finger on, like what is that person doing other than just talking to people. And I think if you want to be that kind of connector, that type, I think vetting people is one of those key parts. And it's one of those things where it's not so nice to talk about, kind of like what I was saying with, what do I hate doing? It's not good to dwell on how much you hate, doing things that are part of your responsibilities. But, that's what I think is really important if you want to be taking that seat in a team is, knowing how to vet people.
Definitely.
Awesome. So let's continue.
Tell you what, if you're married, your spouse would be very, very glad to tell you about this, and they would say, "Hey, have a seat. Let's make this list, right?" But in all honesty, all joking aside, you need to identify these things. And if you are one of these folks that walks around pounding your chest, talking about how you're awesome at everything, you're full of it, man. Put the ego down for a minute and talk for a second about what you're not the best at, right? And because what's great about this is you can if you can build a team, that team will allow you to focus on your core genius, your God-given strength, while they focus on what their God-given strength is. Because I'll submit to you this: whatever you're awful at, there is someone else in the world that is awesome at it, and they'd love to get paid to do it. Right? Think about that. And that may blow your mind, but whatever thing you hate doing. By the way, here's a great way to tell what you're terrible at. Find out what you procrastinate on doing. Right? If there's something that you procrastinate about, that means that you're likely not wired to do it. But if I say, hey, Matt, I want you to go look at 55 real estate deals right now, I'd love to. But if I say, okay, Matt, I also want you to analyze the financials and write up an analysis on them and things like that, it's, oh man, I'll do that next week. Right? I'll do that in a month or two. If you're procrastinating on something, that means you suck at it. So don't do it. Right? Get someone who's chomping at the bit and say, oh, I'll do it. It's Sunday night at 10 o'clock. I'd love to underwrite some deals, I'll watch Netflix instead of that, right? But other people would love to do it, okay?
I'm going to pause it right there because Jason had a great point. Jason, what was your observation as another issue?
My experience is people don't go around pounding their chest saying, hey, I'm great at everything. They do the exact opposite and say they can't do anything. And so what opened up our eyes is one of our mentors had us reach out to 5 different people and ask them what we were good at so that we can see what we're good at in other people's eyes. And that's, I think, how Angel realized her superpower as well. So,
yeah, because I was one of those people that was like, and even after getting into this and having people say, oh no, this is what you're really good at, I still get down on myself a lot of times. And I'm like, what am I good at? Talking? And then I look at Jason and I'm like, he has like an actual intrinsic value skill. He can underwrite. He can customize spreadsheets for other people. He's got like that skill that you can it's tangible. You can hold on to it. And I get down on myself. I'm kicking myself on down. I'm like, yeah, what can I do? I can talk. Great. Everybody can talk. And so that's one of those things where it's like, I don't necessarily walk around saying I can't do anything, but I do get down on myself. And I do have down days where I'm like, I don't do anything that means anything. So I think that it's part of the imposter syndrome. And part of it is just that every day is not going to be rainbows and butterflies. And so don't be afraid or ashamed when those days happen, because they're going to happen. And you just kind of have to not kick yourself when you're down. I'm preaching to myself here, and allow yourself to be lifted up by others so that you can see how great you really are.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And like that's one thing that I've been noticing, like we've been working with each other every single day since August, and the self-awareness is what really jumps out a lot. I know you guys are constantly working on mindset and things like that, but there's so many parts of our personalities that I think people just aren't even aware that they're going on. And the self-awareness, I think, it's just so pivotal to be able to relate to other people, because some people, they just don't know how they're perceived, and how can you have the conversation that way? So,
okay, so find out whatever these are all, so their superpowers. I kind of beat this into the ground a little bit, right? And there's another superhero Easter egg for you guys. Find out what your superpower is and what their superpower is too. So these core strengths I'm talking about are going to fall around a few different things. They're going to fall around their skills, meaning just what's in their veins. Okay. They're going to fall around their work experience, because they may be people that have lots of multifamily experience. Or I've got a partner on my team that is a trained rocket scientist. He could literally design a rocket for me, but he also underwrites real estate deals. So find out what people's experience are in the world and how you can spin that into benefit you in real estate, right? Not people too much about having real estate experience. Well, listen, unless you are an alien that arrived on Earth last Tuesday, you have experience doing something. Okay. You are great at something. I don't care if that greatness is making the best quiche ever in the world. That means you're good at following instructions. Okay. Or good at getting creative, whatever it is. Okay. Whatever your experience in the world is, I'll bet you, if you think outside the box, you could translate that into a real estate business. And the last thing is behavior. What behavior means is this is our internal wiring on what we fall back to when left to instinct. So what do we do? Are we really chatty? Are we more analytical? There are behavior personality assessments out there, and I recommend highly considering an assessment to determine what your behavioral strengths are and your team assessments are. A few to rattle off. I have to plug the predictive index because that's one my wife used for 10 years. So by contract and by my marriage, I have to mention that one. The DISC is another very similar one. I love StrengthsFinder. That's another great one too. And there's another one that's called the Kolbe, Kolbe, Kolbe. Any of these assessments will cost you well under $100 to take. And I strongly recommend, if anybody joins my team, the first thing they do is take a behavior assessment, because I need to know, how are they wired, man? What are they going to do when left to their instincts? What is going to be the reaction to times of trouble or to whatever it is? What are they going to fall back to in their inner veins as their behavioral reaction? Okay. There you gain diversity. If you got a bunch of extroverts, y'all sit around and have a bunch of laughs and tell lots of stories and drink lots of coffee and get nothing done. Right? If you got a bunch of people that are analytical, you'll sit around, you have paralysis by analysis. And if you got a bunch of people that are really cautious, you'll sit around and never leave the room because you're really worried about getting hit by a bolt of lightning. Okay. You cannot have the same behavioral traits in a team, because you will all have the same flaws and the same faults, and you won't get anything done. You have to have that diverse team on behavior as well. Just take it to the next step. Let me bring all this home for you guys and translate it into real estate for you. You build your power team based on their superpower. So here we go. Here are the 4 seats on the bus, and we'll talk about what each of these traits would fall into. The seat number 1 on the bus is called the hunter, right? This is the person that goes out and finds the opportunity, man. They're likely not armed with a firearm like this person is, but they could be in certain states. They go out and they find the deal. This is the person that gets to know real estate opportunities and real estate cities, right? This is the person that is slightly analytical, but is really tenacious, right? This is the one that is a reasonable networker, but not like the nice kind of networker that you love them and want to have them over for Christmas dinner. This is the person that's tenacious, that's going to bang their head on the door 75 times, knowing that it'll open the 78th time, right? It's willing to call brokers, be told no, call sellers, and do research enough to the point where they get to know the good blocks and bad blocks of any city in the US. I am not the believer that we should be investing in any city in the US. I am the believer in my company philosophy that you should pick a market and absolutely try and own that market. Right? Jake and Gino did not become successful by investing in 78 cities across the continental United States. They've expanded, but mostly their work is in Knoxville, right? And they've slowly expanded out of there as they grew. Okay. Now, Joe Fairless, Dallas, right? Name a lot of big syndicators, and you can name these cities, the markets that they own. They're known for those markets, right? They expand out of it eventually, but it is important, if you want to be successful, do not be that syndicator. Don't be that syndicator that tells you. I met somebody at a networking event a year ago. I was like, what markets are you shopping? I said, I'm trying to get started. Okay, great. What markets are you shopping? I'm shopping 22 markets across the US. I'm like, no, you're not. You're looking on LoopNet. That's it. All you're doing is just surfing LoopNet in those 22 markets across the US. You're not actually shopping those markets. You're not really in those markets. If you're going to pick up.
So you want to say what LoopNet is for anybody who isn't aware?
Okay, so when we first got into this space, we were told LoopNet is where deals go to die.
Yeah.
However, since that time, we have met an investor that invests here in Wichita Falls that, guess where he found his first building, which Big Blue is the tallest building downtown, isn't it, Jason?
I think so.
Yeah. So he found it on freaking LoopNet, and it was such an amazing deal. He only has to keep it like 25% occupied to make money. It
Wow.
blows my mind. So I would just say LoopNet is actually potentially a good place to find some deals. especially if you're willing to put in the research necessary to decide and determine whether or not those are going to be profitable. So you're going to want somebody like Jason that can crunch the numbers and look at the population, look at the path of progress, look at all of those pieces that go into the determinations, and then decide what you're going to do. But I'm no longer of that school of thought that it is where deals go to die. I'm more in the school of thought of you can find deals anywhere as long as you're willing to put in the time to look at the details, have somebody do the number crunching, and then move forward from there.
And so the LoopNet is all commercial deals, to my knowledge, and it's kind of like if people have only got residential experience, I believe it's like Zillow. Is that correct? I don't know Zillow very well. I don't know if you use it.
It's kind of like a universal listing database.
No, like an MLS. Yeah.
I don't.
I think
How would you
Zillow
explain-
is more advanced because Zillow does like rent comps and sales comps, stuff like that. This one, I think, is more just like a marketplace.
So there you go. Far out. So Hunter.
A market, your hunter person needs to be the one to physically go to that market and meet brokers, walk deals, go door to door, look at opportunities and everything like that, and really own it. So the hunter is the one. I digress a little bit talking about market selection. I got a whole other presentation on that. But the hunter is your market person. That is the one that gets to know the brokers, the wholesalers, the sellers, the deals, the neighborhoods, the everything, right? They're the one that produces the opportunity, and they bring that opportunity to this person. This is the brain. This is your analyst. This is the person that is, if you are someone, I'll speak personally, if you are someone who can live inside an Excel spreadsheet for 3 to 4 hours and can be completely happy and glorious about it, that's your analyst, right? That's your brain. That's someone who I can tell right now, Angel's not having that, right? I'm not either, but I have people that love it, man. And they will stay in the analysis of a deal, and they will take that deal and they will twist it and turn it and play with it and poke it and prod it until they can find a way to make it work. And the analyst is someone who takes an opportunity and finds a way to make it work and produces something called the business plan. The business plan is, we're going to buy it for this. We're going to renovate it. We're going to raise rents to this. We're going to do this much in CapEx. If we're going to do that, we need to get this kind of financing. They write out the success plan to meet investor targeted goals, to meet, okay, our investors need to achieve this rate of return. And to get that, we got to buy it for this, do this kind of work. This is when we got to exit. This is when we do everything. That is your analyst. If you don't have somebody like that on your team, you don't like living in spreadsheets, you're not going to make it. You need someone, multifamily is super complex. And you need someone who's willing to live inside Excel or live inside some sort of analysis software and live in there until they can spit out a spreadsheet and show you guys how the deal is going to work. Right. That's your analyst. Then you've got the money, right? That's someone who's super well networked, that likely has a podcast or a YouTube channel like I do or something like that. That is the one that attracts those that are looking to invest in real estate, that want to learn how to do what we do, that wants to do whatever it is. They're what they call the attractive character of the company, and they manifest the investors. They're the ones that attracts those, and they're networked. They go to functions, they meet people. They're good. They're the magnet of the company in a lot of ways when it comes to investors. They're the investor magnet. The hunter is the deal magnet. The money is the investor magnet. Okay. Now, the money person, if they're really good at this, is also good at explaining super complex stuff simply. If you can sit a 10-year-old down and explain to a 10-year-old how a car works or how an airplane can fly, if you understand these things, right? Then without making the 10-year-old understand it, right? If you can explain these things, right, very simply to people, then you could be a good money person, because you need to be able to explain how multifamily works and how people are going to get basic stuff, like how they're going to get their money back. We as real estate investors in these circles tend to live inside an echo chamber, and we expect people to understand things like IRR and cash on cash return and collateral and things like that. But guess what? They don't. Right? The cardiologist you may talk to that wants to put $200,000 into your deal may not understand what IRR means, and you need to be able to explain it to them really simply. Okay, so that's the money, and that money's responsibility is attracting the capital, attracting the equity to this deal, and also the loan. I find the money to be responsible to negotiating and also locating the sponsor for the loan, for net worth and things like that, and assembling all the dollars with the deal. The dollar assemblage happens on the money side. If you want to learn more about that, read my book, Raising Private Capital. That'll tell you a lot about how to attract and assemble investor arrangements. So I've got I've got a deal now, right? I'm completely successful. I got a hunter, I got a deal, I've got a business plan, and I've got money in the works, right? Well, that's it. I don't really need a fourth seat on the bus. No, because all this is theory. All this is there is no implementation. There is no one that's going to pick up a hammer and to make it happen. There's your superhero Easter egg, right? So the hammer is one that takes this business plan, this theory, this conceptual thing on paper, and brings it to reality and drives that business plan into a success story. Okay. The hammer is someone who's tenacious and who is maybe not the nicest person on the world, who's willing to get in the face of the property manager on a regular basis, or contractors, or whatever it is, and browbeat them into submission to create the success of the deal. This is the person who is okay not being liked by everybody. That's the money. That's the money's job. The hammer is the job to not be liked by everybody, to kind of be the one that's your little, oh geez, I better get this done. I'm gonna get a phone call from that person. Yeah, the hammer's job is to push and push and push on the deal to create success. That is the hammer. Now, if you think about this, what do I got? I got a tenacious person that's able to go out and find me deals.
All right, I just paused it there because I figured it's a good time to say, it's like, well, where would you even start to find those places? And personally, the biggest place that comes to my mind is at Marvelous Mondays Meetup, because it's free and you get to meet people all kinds of different syndicators, hunters, hammers, brains, money. Why don't you say a few things about the Marvelous Mondays?
So Marvelous Mondays is super awesome. We meet every single Monday at noon Eastern. Holiday, birthday, vacation, it doesn't matter. We're going to be there. Now, I will say that I'm going on a high school trip with my daughter in April, and we might have to figure that one out because we're going to be in the Grand Tetons and there may not be cell reception. So we may have to figure this one out. But other than that, we meet every single Monday. So you never have to worry about, oh, is it this week or is it next week? Wait, is it the second Monday of the month? No, it's every single Monday at noon Eastern. And this year, it happens on Christmas. So that's going to be a fun one to figure out. We will have a massive picture of everyone that shows up on Christmas Day, and we will plaster it everywhere because it's just going to be neat to see what happens on that day. But there we go.
I totally agree. And Jason is such a social person. That's why he just can't stop talking about it. So
hey, he talks at Marvelous Mondays.
He does. He really does. It's real. It's real.
It's the only meetup I try to make every week.
Yep, that's true. It's very true. Right on. So we are reviewing Matt Fairclough's presentation on building your syndication team for taking over commercial properties, especially multifamily. So let's rock and roll.
I've got an analyst that's able to browbeat, able to crunch that deal out until they can make it make sense. I've got a super phenomenal money attractor that can bring money into the project and also assemble all the financial wherewithal of the project. And I've got someone who's willing to browbeat vendors into submission until they abide by the business plan. With those four things, you have success. Without those four things, you don't. Okay. Now, by the way, it is possible to have cross correlation between these two seats. I find the correlation actually works in a diagonal line, meaning like the hunter in some ways is sometimes also the money. You don't have to literally have four people. You have to have four hats on your bus. It is not possible that I've ever seen to have one person wear all four hats. You're not to be successful. You can have two people wear the hats. And the way that works is your analyst is sometimes also your hammer, and your hunter is also your money person sometimes, because there is some correlation between those two roles. But as you grow and expand, you need to have you need to have those roles break off and become their own, because they can become divisions of a full company if you look at it. That's, I mean, in big boy, big girl talk, this is acquisitions, analysis, capital, and asset management, right? That's the non-layman terms name for these roles. In larger companies, these are divisions of companies. Okay. So if you are self-aware, if you take personal inventory for yourself, and if you have the courage to look at your strengths and also your weaknesses, you can assemble this for yourself and figure out where you sit on this bus. Your first step is to think about which one of these most speaks to you. Maybe even rank them, to write all four of them down, to say, I'm number one, the hunter; number two, the hammer; number three, the money; number four, the analyst. If you can write that down and then flip that script upside down and find people that are the exact upside down of you, you've got a pretty good alignment for team. You got people that are great at things that you're not, and you consider all the different things that make a great team that I talked about above to contribute to these four factors here, right? So
there should also be a little bit of overlap in a few of them. You know, like you can't have anybody on your bus who, if they get in trouble, then you're just behind the eight ball.
Yeah. No, and I would also like to say, that I think that me personally, I talk a little bit about how it's great when people self-select away from you. They either like me or they don't. But in the people that I've developed relationships with, if I find out that they're angry with me or that I've done something that they don't like or they no longer like me, that hurts. So like Jason is definitely the brains. I am definitely the money. But I think both of us play roles in the hunter and the hammer. The hammer is more difficult for me than it is for Jason. And sometimes I believe the hunter is easier for me than it is for Jason, but I think we may equally split that one. So he gets yoked with a little more responsibility when you're looking at those four roles, because I have a tough time with the hammer.
So one thing that jumps out to me is that there's two different things, like two different types of hunters or two different prey, I suppose, if you're going to be going for that way. One of them would be finding the actual properties, which that's, you guys are buying up Wichita Falls, Texas. And my understanding is that Jason is generally the one who's going around keeping an eye on all the different properties, see what is really prime for an acquisition. But on the other hand, there's also a hunter aspect of just finding the bankroll, just finding enough people who want to be involved in commercial real estate, which would, that's a money piece. But like, my interpretation of the money piece is that it's kind of like some of the people we know where when they've got a deal, they're literally only talking to like 6 people. And that's it. It's not 12. It's not 20. It's not 100. they need some cash for a deal. They talk to 6 people, they can get it done. Okay, so that is my interpretation of a money person as they're describing, whereas a hunter is one who's constantly finding more people who might be involved. So maybe we can go through some more on those different roles a little bit later.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
Who else do you need, right? Quickly, these are the other general team members you need. These are likely just maybe paid vendors, right? But you still need them on your team. It's more than 4 people you need. You need commercial real estate brokers. You need maybe wholesalers, although wholesalers typically don't play in the larger arenas. They're starting to. Wholesalers are starting to try and take down larger apartment buildings and wholesale. So you might see more of that as we grow and as things change. You need a marketing team. That could be a third-party marketing company, but people that are there to kind of, put a little more juice into your magnet to make more people notice you, right? You could even do a paid underwriting. You can outsource underwriting. I personally don't believe in that, but you could outsource underwriting too. That is something you can hire out, right?
I think it's very important to hire that out, as a matter of fact, unless you're like us and we have the people who's being hired. I figured that's a great time to put on some more stuff on my face and ask the very important question. Is there more room in your underwriting? Is there? So Jason, he offers several different tiers of underwriting services. Who wants to take it away this time? Jason, you've been awful quiet. You want to say something more?
Yeah. I have looked at people's underwriting. I can look at other people's your underwriting. If you have a deal and you just don't know if it makes sense or not. I know a lot of people get overwhelmed looking at spreadsheets, so I can help break it down for you if you need help. If you need an underwriter for your team, I can potentially do that too. A lot of this is negotiable, so scan that QR code and connect.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. And there really are different levels, different layers to underwriting. Really like it's similar to what an accountant does as far as going through receipts and making sure everything's accounted for. But there are a lot of assumptions that an underwriter does if they're really good at it that really make the difference between making a good acquisition and a bad one. So, Angel, did you have anything else to add?
No, just that, Jason's an amazing underwriter, and anyone that needs help, they should absolutely ask him for it, because I don't know anybody that's better than him.
Yep. And I love the fact that he's not the type to like look at your numbers and go, ha ha, because that'd be embarrassing and bad. Jason's very nice about these things. So.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying I wouldn't do that, just not to your face.
Jason, he would not. He would not even do it behind your back. He's just trying to be funny.
Yeah, that's a dad joke right there. Yeah, for sure.
Purchasing deals. You need an attorney. Once you're under contract, you need a whole army. You need an attorney, a mortgage broker, an insurance broker, private money partners. Of course, those are team members, right? The folks that your money person attracts to invest in your deal with you are team members too. They're on the ride along, man. And in some ways, they're the most important people on the bus. You need a title company. You can't transfer real estate without a title company. On managing deals, once you're under contract, you need a bookkeeper, accountant. Sometimes the property management team does this for you, but they're still part of the team. Local feet on the street. I believe when we buy deals, we always try and find a local investor that's on the street in that market to go and walk units for me, because we don't invest right in our own backyard. We invest in a couple areas across the United States. They're not in our backyard. So I try and find local feet that are in that market. If you're not investing in your own backyard, you need to find someone that can be your legs for you when you need them. So you don't have to go get on an airplane every time you need to go look at something. Perhaps general contractors, construction managers, of course, the PM company. That's very important to have. And then the asset manager. That's the hammer, right? So here is our first apartment building deal. This is a 10-unit in Ewing. Okay, Ewing's is a little town in New Jersey. On this deal, I was the money. Okay, was not the hammer. I was the money, the analyst, and the hunter, right? And the analyst side didn't work out so well. I should have subbed this out because I missed a few things in the analysis, but we worked it out. But again, if you're not something, don't. If you're not the core strength, find someone else that can help you with it, right? We bought it from a broker. Right. As my first syndication with multiple investors, like I said, it was a 10-unit apartment building. Painted it, changed up the units, got rents up from $700 up to $895 over time. I still own it. It's a cash flowing asset. We did self-manage at the time. All units needed to get cleaned up. And this property's in the middle of a cemetery, so it's in a quiet neighborhood. People either hated it or they loved it, So they either thought that it looked like that, like it was in the middle of a park, or they looked like that, like they were surrounded by a bunch of dead bodies. So it's very hard to look at it either. Again, we found out that you had to disclose that coming in, because we've told people, hey, it's a great area, we love it. People come by for the showing and realize, oh, I can't live in the middle of a cemetery. In that, but then other people say, oh, it's amazing. I can take my dog for walks. Yes, you could. It's nice and quiet. You won't hear anything from the neighbors. They're not going to complain. In that. So that was our first bigger real estate deal at 10 units. I submit to you that this size deal is a phenomenal entry point for anyone that's looking to scale up into multifamily, because we did this deal, I think it was 7 or 8 years ago, and this is our current deal. This is one we're under contract with right now, closing in 2 weeks. This is a 336 unit apartment complex, much larger team. We scaled up as we grew. It's in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. C-class asset. That's kind of what I invest in. I like C-class workforce housing stuff. 55,000 a unit, average rents at 600, so it achieves the bigger pockets 1% rule that a lot of people use for quickie back of the napkin analysis. The rents are $150 below the market for the same asset class, and we will be adding a pool. We'll be adding playgrounds. We'll be painting that ugly 1972 brick right there. We're going to be changing out the units and doing some upgrades and doing appliances. Appliances, by the way, are the money, man. You can make it. We're doing a deal right now that we have in Kentucky. We're making a 60% cash on cash return just by changing out the appliances. Here's the numbers. We're going to tenants and saying, hey, if I replace all your appliances, including a new microwave above the stove, and give you a new dishwasher and everything, whole shoot and match, new finishes and everything, would you pay me $50 a month? Absolutely, I would do that. Right? Okay. I can get that appliance set for around $1,000. Okay. The whole thing, $1,000, because of the buying power that we and our property manager have. So $1,000 to make $50 a month. That's $600 a year on $1,000 investment. 60% cash on cash return. You don't have to go spend $10,000 on a door to make great returns on real estate. Just go to your tenants and say, hey, listen, what if I put some new ceiling fans and some new appliances in here? Would you pay me a few bucks a month for that? Tenants might say, yeah, sure. I want a better lifestyle. I want to enjoy these amenities. I'd pay you a little bit more for that. Phenomenal. Off you go. It's a great rate of return. Times 336 units or times however many units you have could be a really great cash flow that you'd create for yourself. This is a recession and COVID-proof property, which we tend to look for as well, right? So with these 4 team members, you can achieve deals like this. These are 3 apartment complexes that we now own. The one on the left is one that we're buying in that. But you guys can create success like this and leverage the strengths of a team. I cannot reiterate enough to you guys that as much as your ego may tell you can do all this stuff yourself and you're good at everything, you may not be. You might need a team around you that can help you do some of the awesome stuff that needs to happen in real estate. If you guys would like a copy of today's presentation, or if you wanted to hear more, I'm sure our good friend Angel here is recording today's presentation, so I'm sure y'all can contact her. It could get you a copy of today's recording. But if you just want a copy of this PowerPoint slide, you can just send a little text message to the DeRosa, to that number right there, 66866. And you'll get a bunch of free resources, including letters from all of our property managers on what they're doing during COVID, COVID success stories. You'll get both presentations that my wife and I both did for the Bigger Pockets conference in front of 1,000 people last year. So both those are there, including a few hours worth of video that is not on my YouTube page. All that for free by texting the word DeRosa to 66866. So go ahead and do that. If you are an accredited investor and want to hear more about investments that we offer and what the kind of rates of return we offer our investors, if you are an accredited investor, you can email us at investor@derosagroup.com. Cool. Angel, that's what I got. I'm 7 minutes early. So
That's awesome.
yeah, man. What do you want to chat about anything here? Anything?
That deal that they just listed, of course, that was in 2020. That's like an eye-watering deal. I'm sure he made a fortune on that. It was just, oh my goodness. Like Winston-Salem and 2020, that many units, that far below rent. Just wow.
But that's not even that. I don't think that's their first thought. I think that they want to enhance the property for the residents, and sure, they want to give their investors an amazing return because they want repeat investors. But I really believe down deep, they want to first enhance the life of the resident. And I think that's why they're able to do such amazing things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So my plan was to keep on going through the Q&A. Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, most people don't invest just to make other lives better. I mean, we invest in real estate to make our own lives better. It's just that on the hierarchy, we're at the bottom. So yes, we do invest to provide for our families and stuff like that. And so when he did look at this deal, it probably was a killer deal. He wouldn't have invested in it if he wasn't going to make money. It's just that he's not going to make money first. I just want to point that out.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. So I was planning on keeping going through the Q&A session. That cool with you guys?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Rock and roll.
Anything you'd love to? Anything that anything came up for you? Anything you want to put out there? You want to just shut up?
No. So Chris Linger is saying, Matt, glad to hear these things. Only know the DeRosa side. Marcella and I are in the next deal with you.
Cool. Who was that?
Chris Linger.
Yes.
And then Marcella.
Nice. Well, good to hear from you guys, man. We close in 2 weeks, man. Awesome to have you guys on board. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Marcella Soberanis.
Yes. Yep. I know who that is. Yeah. Awesome to have you guys, man. Awesome to have you.
Justin. He's like,
no, I know. You're a friend of Justin's. No. I knew that. Marcella, I knew Marcella because it's a very unique name. So Marcella Soberanis. I totally butchered that. I'm sorry, but I know you're a friend of Justin's, and we're super grateful to have you guys on board, man. So we're hoping to knock your socks off in 2 weeks after closing.
Yeah, they're another really awesome couple too. And Marcella, she came to my aid. I'd known her for like a day and a half, and I had a speaker cancel on one of our weekly episodes, and she was like, "I've got you," and she was just awesome. So yeah, this is a really awesome just space to be in, and
Yes.
everybody is so supportive and
Absolutely.
it's awesome. Yeah, my husband was saying earlier too that the person that sits in the Excel sheet, he says dibs. You know, he's that person. I am not that person.
Well, it's important. We all have our strengths though, and as much as like, you know, it's good to focus on what you can do, but also just owning what you can't do, owning what it probably would sink your company if you had to do the whole time, you know, and that. So I think it's really about, and Justin's our asset manager. He's my hammer, you know, and that, but I'm just not wired that way. But he is. And so it's important to build a team based around strengths, because we try and do everything ourselves, don't we? You know, but I think that really you're not going to grow until you give up certain things, you know?
Yeah, well, and I think that like that's one of the things that I'm hoping that I can get some experts in to really talk about it in my mastermind, just because I don't think people need to work on their weaknesses. I just don't, because that's not who they are. I think people need to focus on their strengths and just make those strengths superpowers.
Yes.
And that's just like coming back inside of you and looking for your true authentic self. What are my strengths? I'm going to like 10x those strengths. And then I'm going to go ahead and admit to myself what I suck at. And then I'm going to go find people who don't suck at that.
Well, I think that like you can't let yourself off the hook on certain things, right? So you can't say, oh, I suck at, you know, eating right, so I'm just not going to eat right. No, you got to do that. There's certain things you have to do for your financial health or for your physical health or for your mental health or whatever it is. Like your health coach you had on earlier talking about getting enough sleep, right? You're like, oh, I'm just not good at sleeping, and so I'm just not going to do that, right? Yeah. So there are things that you just need to do for your health of everything, for your financial well-being or for your all those things. But once you're beyond that, when it comes to like really just like, you know, core strengths, then you got to be willing to own what you're not good at. But you need to differentiate like muscles you have to build just to be successful, and things that you don't have to build. You do not have to be a phenomenal bookkeeper or analyst of numbers to be a successful business person. You need to be able to read a financial statement. You need to be able to read a balance sheet. You can't be completely oblivious to those things, but you don't have to be the best at it, the best analyst that there is.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, though, that the longer that you work with a team, the more you learn about their roles too.
Mhm.
I just think about Jason. So my husband is a very, very, very introverted, and he's becoming more talkative around people, and like he is engaging with people more. And so I think that like without noticing that you're working on things that you're not so strong at, you just kind of happen to. And I think that it works really good in a team when you have all those different roles together, because you learn from the people that are really good at what they're doing.
Yeah, you can move on the spectrum a little bit towards more, you know, people interaction and big room management and stuff like that. You can move that, but Jason will never be as good at it as you are. Never. It's okay. You know why? Because you will never be as good of an analyst as he is, you know, right? You might get a little better at it. You might be able to shift a little bit on the spectrum closer to where he is, but if he's over here, you're never going to get over there, right? And he's never get over here where you are when it comes to extroversion, work in the room, getting to know people, networking, all that other kind of stuff, you know? So you can shift a little bit, but you're never going to become awesome at something like that.
Well, even saying that, like the more he focuses on his strength of analyzing and analysis, the better he gets at it. So there's not even a mathematical way for me to even get closer to him on that, because he's amazing at it. He can sit there and just look at like, what is it, matrices of just numbers and find the one that's wrong.
Yep.
And I'm just like, what? And like, I can use the Excel sheets he creates and the formulas that he figures out and all the macros or whatever it is he does to make these things amazing. I mean, I can use them, but I could never create them. And I'm okay with that because I have him on my team. And as we grow and as we get bigger, we will absolutely be hiring out people and pulling people onto the team that do the things that we hate to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
You have to. I mean, Liz and I had to suck it up in the beginning, and she had to keep our books. She was awful at it, and so was I. But eventually, once we had enough money, we were able to hire a bookkeeper in that. That was such a game changer to be able to free ourselves up of things that we both were also awful at and hated doing. But again, whatever you hate doing, there's someone who loves doing it and could feed their family to get paid to do what you hate doing. You know, so you got the.
I'm really curious if you guys have wiggled at all. Like, I think, Angel, you still do believe that, you know, you don't necessarily have to work on your weaknesses, but I think you've eased off on that a little bit.
It's not so much that I eased off on it as just being around the numbers. I can regurgitate them more, and I can kind of tell you what they mean. I can't tell you why they go up or down. We were talking to somebody just the other day who was like, you know, if we're in a group, we're not going to be talking about cap rate all the time, right? And I had to be honest and be like, you know, I can't always remember what cap rate is. I don't remember how you use that to figure value all the time. I have to look at it. Once I look at the formula, I can use it. But off the top of my head, I can't just talk about what it is, because that's not something I do all the time. But if you want me to talk about how to get to know people and how to learn their details, I can talk about that all day long. So I don't really believe you should spend massive amounts of time working on weaknesses, but you're going, like he said, you're going to move a little bit just by simply being around it. But like what I said, I can never mathematically catch up to where Jason is. Even if Jason stopped today, I don't think I would ever be able to catch up to where he is.
That's one. The next thing I was going to mention is the importance of avoiding negative self-talk. or self-limiting beliefs and things like that, like saying like I'd never be able to do that. And I was going to use Jason as an example, which is, you know, like a second ago, it's like, oh, Jason will never be the person to work a room. And I don't buy that anymore. I think that what Jason would be able to do is figure out who he really needs to be talking to and focusing on those, you know, 2 or 3 people. Whereas, you know, the unknowns of a group. So if we're talking about like, you know, hundreds of people, you know, you're going to get to be on a first name basis with about 120 of them anyway, you know, and Jason will walk away with 5, but, you know, like it might be, you know, like those are all serious players sort of things. And so I guess that's another part of just learning what you're capable of. And so Jason, I'm interested in hearing your take as far as that self-growth in, you know, getting out of your comfort zone. Any thoughts that have passed over the last almost 3 years?
Well, he's right. It's like the more you surround yourself with it, the more the needle's going to move. But I mean, I don't work on it intentionally, but yeah, I don't ever plan on trying to work a room. And I agree with you on what you said, that I would find a handful of people and I'd be happy with that. So
So there's a lot more to do. Rock and roll. So let's get going.
The resources, pay someone to do it. If you don't, that's okay. Build up your resources to where you can start outsourcing the things you hate at.
Yeah, when I think about the summit this time, we tried to do more of it on our own. And Jason had done the schedule last time, and I was like, I'm gonna do the schedule. I can do the schedule. I will never do another schedule because, like, the last time, no mistakes. And he was really good about getting on the phone, getting everybody up, which he's been amazing at this time too. So the behind the scenes that he does is tremendous. But I know I'm not good at details, but I didn't realize just how bad I am.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was.
But look at what it creates when you try and be the detail person.
I know.
If I tried to be the detail person, I'd have that falling. I'd have Jake and Gino logging in next week. You know, wrong day, wrong month, wrong everything, man. You know, and all that. But
I
like,
kept taking it back. He's like, I try and work on it, and you take it back. And I was like, don't let me do that ever again.
That's a personal thing, right? Yeah. He can bring this instance up, right?
Yeah. It was yeah, definitely. I now have an example of why I let him focus on the things that he is good at, and I don't.
Yeah.
So I thought I was helping. I was not. But I think that on the flip side of that too, like, he knows that I can just talk to people, and it's really easy for me. And so he put on the bow tie instead.
Right. No, let him do what he's good at. You know, I mean, let him analyze the opportunities that y'all find and be the risk. And by the way, risk assessment people like that, analysts, tend to think about risk and tend to think about, like, and tend to kind of draw the barriers around, like, okay, we only want to go but this far. People like you and me tend to look at opportunity. Right. And that are more, and it's not that we're optimists, not that we have just a better outlook on life or whatever, because we don't think about risk, and we can step in a hornet's nest if we don't have people like that around us. Right. And so what I find there to be in marriage and in life and in business as well is a good hybrid between the folks that look for opportunities and those that look for risks, you know, and both sides have to listen to each other. Right. And that's where the voice of the analyst comes in, is being able to say, hey man, listen, if we don't get this together, we're going to really wrap this thing around a tree, you know, and that, so if that helps too, those are just different skill sets that you need on a team on both sides of it.
Yeah. And we have a question here too. What are some things you are doing to retain good tenants?
I gauge something called tenant happiness, right? It's hard to measure, but you can't really measure it, but I know what contributes to tenant happiness. So once you've got good tenants in, I tend not to jack their rents up more than 3% a year, right? Unless they're paying completely under market, and you can use the model I came up before, where you give them things in exchange for them giving you more rent, right? So, hey, what if I made an appliance upgrade? What if I put in ceiling fans? What if I got wacky and changed out your flooring in your common areas? You know, whatever it is, right? Those are different things you can do to get rents up, but I try and keep them within a level of standard deviation of where they are now. Then I try and create amenities for them. I've done give backs. We give away a couple of flat screen TVs a year to our tenants for paying their rent on time. You know, enter the name into a lottery and draw the lottery out, and that's who wins the flat screen. We've done all kinds of different stuff like that in the past. But it's also about amenities. We're trying on a new service called Apartment Life, which in larger complexes really creates real stickiness of communities by encouraging neighbor interaction and encouraging neighbors to look out for each other, and helps people turn where they live into a home where there's real neighborhood community involvement, community engagement. It's called Apartment Life. It's not free, but it really creates the stickiness of good tenants to stay where they are. Because the biggest thing that'll hurt you in multifamily is not increasing rents all the way up to market, is vacancy. You know, and that if you can keep expenses down, the biggest thing that'll keep your revenue up is tenants not moving out, because a move out is going to create a vacant unit for at least a month, probably 2, and a big check to bring that unit up to standard, you know, and to renovate it and bring it up to the market and everything like that. So I'd much rather keep a tenant and paying what they're paying than to try and get them out so I can make $150 on that unit from them. So that's what I do to create. I call it creating sticky, happy tenants. You know.
That's some great stuff. Jason, I saw in the chat that you mentioned that, the term tenant isn't the greatest one. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
We are trying, and we slip up sometimes, but we're trying to change our terminology from tenant to resident, because residents, they reside there, they live there. And we want to create that feeling that that's their home and we want them to stay. Tenants just seems more transitory and almost
Transactional.
transactional. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. That's a good distinction. I'm really sensitive to synonyms though, just because of living in Asia for so long. So.
So I also wanted to point out.
So sorry, I'm looking up.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. So, that's a great pause. Oh my God. So apartment life. Thank you.
Is that better?
Apartment life. Yes, that one's better. Apartment life is like hiring a resident advisor for your apartment community. So they have their apartment and then they work on creating community events, community cohesiveness. They remember who they have the information on people's birthdays, anniversaries, things that are important to them, so that they really promote the sense of community within your apartments or within your property. So I don't know that it gets described here, but that is my understanding of what apartment life is.
Interesting. Yeah, because of coming from marketing, whenever we're doing anything, we always want to have some sort of numbers to back it up. And for that one, I know it'd be tricky to say the least. But do you end up getting numbers about like what percent of tenants actually got involved or take advantage of those? Are those something that's common?
I think of it as something more like if you lived in the dorms, your RA would put a little note on your door on your birthday saying happy birthday, or they might get you a balloon, or they might do something special for you like that. And so that's what I think of. Like, it's not necessarily that you are actively a part of it so much as you're being recognized, because that's one of those basic human needs, is being recognized, being felt like you're loved and cared for. And so when you're able to take care of some of those human needs for the people around you, you're going to build that cohesiveness of community. And I think that's the cool thing about apartment life. I think it's one of the reasons why our properties have been so successful, is because our on-site staff is very mindful of creating those community events, because with one of our properties, the on-site girl actually lives in the apartments. And so she feels really tightly connected to the community there. So I think that's why she's been so successful at creating events and having them well attended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love how you put that. It's the way that I put it in a negative context would be the opposite is irrelevance, because I know I've definitely felt that, especially like when I was living on my own in Taiwan. It's somebody tying a balloon to the door of my apartment. It would have been very welcome. Whereas right now, if somebody tied a balloon on my door, because I don't live in an apartment, I'd be freaked out.
You'd be looking for the clown in the gutter.
Great example. Yeah, exactly. Pennywise is not welcome in this house. Oh, that's fun. Oh man.
Question here. So you said you focus on C-class apartments.
Yes.
Do you feel like C-class is getting hit harder with COVID, or do you feel like it's still pretty solid?
Not the stuff that we're invested in. I haven't seen it. I know the media loves to talk about that, and I know a lot of folks that invest in A and B class real estate love to point at C as the risky part of real estate. I don't think that's the case. I think that we've only seen the first. I think the pebble's just gone into the lake, and we haven't seen the ripples come out from it. I personally think that A and B are going to be more at risk long term. But I think that depending on where your C-class tenants work, it's very easy for them to either prop up on unemployment for a little bit, or go find another job that pays them $30,000, $40,000 a year. Your A-class tenant that's making $90,000 a year gets laid off. It's a lot harder for them to find another job, right? But my C-class tenant making $30,000 a year can get laid off here and be working somewhere else here. Now, if unemployment can bridge that gap, fine. People are like, oh my God, your tenants are paying your rent with unemployment money. Yeah, that happens. It's okay. And that's why there's services like Section 8 and there's services like unemployment or whatever to help them bridge until they've got another job in that. But I think that C-class is much more elastic. And for the C-class tenants more versatile than the A and B class are. And if there is a deeper recession, the A and B class tenants are going to revert back and go to and drop cost of living down and start living in C, or A drops down to B, B drops down to C.
Wow. I hadn't even thought about it from that perspective. That's really cool.
Keep me around.
Well, no, it makes total sense. I mean, that job mobility, and whereas because, and I don't want this to sound bad, but like it's not as specialized. The skill set is not as specialized.
It's not.
And so that mobility is there. Whereas the higher up you go in income,
You didn't have to
the
go to
more
college for it.
specialized you become.
But likely you'd making 90 grand a year, paying $1,500 a month in rent, living somewhere. You probably did go to college for that job, or whatever you're doing requires a degree and a specialized degree, right? But if you're waiting tables one day and you get laid off because of COVID, right? You can likely pick up a job stocking shelves at Walgreens, within a week or two, Now I get Walgreens might not be hiring or whatever. People are like, they're not hiring C-class jobs or whatever. But guess what? C-class tenants are versatile. They will find it. I got tenants that got laid off from their job and now they're working construction or they're working for a cleaning service or whatever it is. They are versatile and they can more easily find some place to make 20, 30, 40 grand a year versus the person making 80, 90 grand.
Yeah. Well, I know, like when we did the core thing, we were talking about like chasing squirrels. But we did have a portfolio
Sure
falling on our laps.
Yeah.
But what it is it's really a group of C-class houses. And it's 5 houses. And Jason and I probably talked him into it. He's probably like, oh my God, no, I don't want to. And he and the banker team up, they tag team on me when we go to the bank and they're both like, oh, I don't think this is a good deal. Oh, I think blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's cash flowing and we get to learn about a new asset class. And so, that's my thought. So I think that I like to be in single family because it is my comfort zone.
I'll give you this. There is no better return on investment. You cannot sell me any different than a single family home with a tenant that takes care of the place and pays their rent on time and plans on staying there for a long time. Because the single family home tenant pays for all their expenses. They pay their water, they pay everything. They cut their own grass, they do a little garden, they may make some home repairs themselves. You will not make the cash flow that you will per door if it's bought right, on an apartment building per door over a single family home. It's just not going to happen. The only thing about your single family home portfolio I would just push back a little bit on is that I don't know where they are, but just make sure that an exit point one day could be to sell them to entry level homeowners. Like if you got in and cleaned them up and put in a few amenities, central air, nice kitchens, nice bathrooms, you could sell them entry level to homeowners. Because if not, your only exit is to sell them to another investor. Right. But that's one thing I like about single families is you could do a rent to own program and have people to rent them from you and transition them over to be a home ownership. But if they're, super tiny 800 square foot row houses, you probably always will be rentals. But if they're like little ranchers in starter areas and C-class, whatever, you can clean them up and siding on them and do the kitchens and whatnot and make them homeowner grade units and sell them for $150K.
I don't think they'd sell for $150K, but they might sell for $65K.
What's your buy right now? What are you buying them at?
Well, we're in Wichita Falls. So housing is cheaper here anyway, but probably somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 a piece. And we negotiated that down because the asking was more than that. So I
would lease them long term then, because at 40 to 50K, what would they rent for?
Well, they are rented anywhere from $625 to $750. Oh, Jason said $47K each, about $700 a month is what they're pulling rent.
I probably would do that deal.
I know.
I would do that deal. I would, because I'll bet you could squeeze another $50 or $75 out of them if you do some upgrades and amenities and everything like that. And if you're flirting with 800 and you bought them for 47 a door, and they're paying all the expenses, your expense ratio is probably 25, probably 30%, 35% of every dollar that comes in goes to expenses. I'm lucky if I can get an apartment building to perform at 50%. Single family homes expense ratio is way, way, way lower.
Yeah, but I mean, it absolutely fell in our laps because we weren't looking for single family homes anymore.
Then wholesale it, man. If you really don't want to do the deal, then flip it. Wholesale it.
Oh wait, there's more to the deal though that would kick us out. I don't know. He's being all analytical on me. He's
being the risk person. You get an opportunity. If you don't want to do the deal, then wholesale it. Aren't I stepping on Holly Williams' toes right now?
Oh yeah, I probably would pull her over.
Good Lord, I'm surprised she's not over here yelling at me right now.
No. Hang on a minute. I can't figure out how to do mine. I can't figure out how to do mine. Can you hear me?
You're doing it, man. I can see you.
No. What I'm loving is what you're saying, because I think that single family homes are coming back in, baby.
I know.
That's what I think.
I'm not chasing it.
I think that was pretty accurate too. Like coming from 2020, like everything was pretty amazing if you were getting into it then, even though it was scary. But I think that also that conversation there was a prime example of why the summits are so much fun. You get these different guests playing off of each other, and it's a really fun environment that you've created here, Angel. And it's amazing to be a part of it.
Well, I think the cool thing there with that situation is I had someone ask me yesterday on the podcast, if I was given $1 million and I could only invest it in one thing, what would that be? And as someone in multifamily, it was really hard for me to say where my heart was. And my heart was in residential, whether that's singles or residential multis. If I had $1 million to invest and could only invest in one type of asset, it would be residential. That's what I know the best. That's what I am absolutely the most comfortable in. And I believe it cash flows almost the same as investing as a passive investor in apartments. It's way more on like hands-on. You can call it passive because you're using a property manager, but you still have to field all the calls for roofs, slab leaks, plumbing issues, toilets. You don't handle them at 2 a.m. you handle them the next day because your property manager handles them at 2 a.m. But at the end of it, when it's all said and done, you don't have to go to a GP team meeting. You don't have to use a list of approved vendors. It's yours. And you can take care of it that way. It's just a much slower roll. So if you need that ability to scale quickly and to work with a team, you're going to have to do that in multifamily. I don't know of any other way. I also don't know that much about any other asset classes, but the ability to scale quickly is what you get through multifamily. So,
Jason, what do you got?
I would have picked something different than that.
Me too. That's why I figured I'd, get you to bear that cross first.
But then again, I'm the one who's running all the numbers and see the difference. And so I think, to be honest, when we got into this, Angel was very reluctant to get into the multifamily going active. So I think that's where that came from, but she is getting more comfortable. So ask her next year or in a year or two and see what her answer is, and I bet you it changes.
It
Yeah,
could.
I think that's fine. Yeah. All right. So we got a few more minutes here in the video, but it sounds like it's the transition. Do you want to keep going, or do you want to call it a day?
We can call it. It really is. It's just the transition there, and it's cool because Holly and Matt are friends also. So all three of us are friends, and that's been the really neat thing too about the summits is that I've been realizing that as I'm trying to figure out what am I doing different from other people that are in the space? What am I doing different from other people that are in investor relations, that are in the capital raising piece? What am I doing different? Because I know I'm doing something different. And I think one of the biggest things of it is that I'm not out there consciously saying, okay, I'm creating a relationship, an investor relationship. In my mind, I am creating a friendship. And if that friendship leads to an investor, great. If it doesn't, I've got another friend in this space that I can call on if things get tough. And I think that that's probably my major difference when I'm talking to people is that I'm going to try really hard not to verbally vomit real estate on you, because honestly, that's not the top of my mind. The top of my mind is that I want to be friends.
Yep. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I guess the only other thing that's really on my mind, because we're starting it next week, is the mastermind that we're doing. I don't have any funny graphics, but I do have a QR code, which people can go ahead and scan with their phones. And I don't know who wants to start it off. I don't know why I have a QR code directly on my head. I'll move it over here so it's not quite so ridiculous. But if you scan that with your phone, that'll take you to the mastermind questionnaire. Jason, you were absolutely instrumental in getting this, so it's starting to run next week. Why don't you say a few things about how it works and what people are looking to get out of it?
So, one, we're super excited about it. We have a group of high-performing individuals who want to level up. I think we have two spots left, maybe 3 spots left. We're limiting it to 12 people because we don't want it to be just a big group where nothing actually gets accomplished. And so, super excited. Going to be holding each other accountable. Going to have lots of good speakers to help us all level up this year now. So come join us, get your goals in line, and we'll accomplish those goals together. So
yeah, absolutely. And I know that Jason's saying we've got lots of great speakers, but this is the way it's going to work, because if we as a group, say 7 out of 12 decide I want to learn about XYZ topic, I'm going to reach out to our circle and see which expert out there, because there's probably going to be more than one expert in our circle, and see which one can come and help us out. And since it's not the whole mastermind that needs that additional assistance, we'll probably hold that on a different day. And that way it can be attended by the people that need that help. And then we'll also have our regular mastermind meeting, so it doesn't take away from that time either, because it's going to be amazing. We're going to be sharing our hardships. We're going to be sharing our triumphs, and we're going to be growing as a friends and family unit. So it's going to be super awesome. I'm really excited to have so many people in our network join us for this mastermind. And we would love to have you look at it and consider it. And then we can hop on a screening call and see if we fit each other. It's not just us saying, oh, hey, yeah, you can join the club. That's not it at all. It's mutual. Because if we hop on the phone and you're like, ooh, I don't think this is going to work out, then it's not going to work out. And we're open to that conversation. And that is what that interview or screening is about. It's about figuring if it's going to work out for both of us, because we want every single person that is a part of the mastermind to be successful. We want to all level up, and we don't want someone at the end of the year to say, okay, that was a suck of my time and money. We want you to walk away from it saying that was the best investment I've ever made.
Right. And with these different players, the way I'm looking at it, it's like having 12, well, of course, you're one of them. So 11 consultants about your business all at once. And that's the problem I have is I go through the effort to explain what's going on to one person. And it's like, I know that there are some contrary opinions that need to be addressed. And I'm not sure if that person will be able to accept it. But if you're surrounded by people who are doing this business, then you'll get the mindset part of just like, okay, you've got these self-limiting beliefs and that's messing you up, to the more practical advice of like, hey, well, why don't you go to this type of event to find more people or something like that. I think it's just such a huge thing that like I just don't see how it's conceivable that you could really take part in it and not get more than you put into it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Awesome. So this has been really, really amazing. Another REI Rocks review. This is our first one of 2023. I think it went quite well. We're here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you tune in. We're on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. But we're always
I was
here.
late on the share in LinkedIn. That's on me. Sorry, guys. I did get it shared.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody out there, for watching. Anybody else have any final words that they want to say?
Did we do the takeaways, or did we just kind of?
We didn't do the doggy bag. Yeah, sorry. I know you got another thing. So what's the doggy bag?
Well, I was thinking. I was like, did we do the takeaways? I would just say that for me and Jason, our biggest roles are the brain and the money, and then I think that we share the hunter and the hammer. So while yes, there's that diagonal crossover, I think that with me and Jason, we're able to share the hunter and the hammer. Again, I think he's way better at the hammer than I am, because I don't like it when people that I consider to be my friends get angry with me or don't like me. So that's a thing that I don't deal well with the hammer. If we're one-on-one, it's a little bit easier, but if it's like in a property management meeting or something, I'm going to have a real hard time with that tough conversation. And there are people out there that absolutely thrive on that, not because they think it's awesome to be like the point of contention or to be the person that everybody hates, but because they like to get things done and they believe things need to happen in a specific and certain way to get that done. And they're just able to do it. So that's Jason's a little better at that than I am. And when it comes to finding deals, I mean, we're not in the place where we're getting pocket listings yet. So we're both working on the broker relations and finding the deals. So it's that's why I think that we're both working on both of those pieces, and it's not necessarily a direct diagonal connection.
Well, it's not like you're not getting pocket listings. It's just not as many as you'd like, right, Jason?
Are not deals that make sense for us. So, I mean, we
That's
still we invest, but we invest that has to make sense for our investors to make money and us to make money, and then be able to create a business plan where we can improve the residents' lives. So if we can't do that, we're not going to entertain it. We'll move on. Or if we do get that and we submit an LOI to where it does make sense and it's not accepted, I mean, that's usually what happens. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess we do get listings that nobody else has seen yet, but then we look at them and we're like, yikes. Because we just can't make it work. And a lot of times those are out of town investors that aren't familiar with Wichita Falls. And I think that is probably the number one benefit of investing where we live. And I'm so glad that we're in Texas, because if we were somewhere like, I don't know, California, or New York, or somewhere further up north in either of those areas, like Pacific Northwest, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for us. Not the same kind of sense it does where we live now.
Yeah, I see that all the times on the news these days. It's like, oh, everything's terrible. Oh, Texas is cool though. It's like, oh, great. So awesome. So I look forward to seeing you again next week, Friday, 11 a.m. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn mostly. Go ahead and put comments into the chat box, because we do keep on answering those after this is done. And thanks again for watching.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Bye.